If I can get her in,
Yeah.
get everything.
Heather left and then Heather came
Her
back.
husband's back, but
So I was there.
for next year.
Oh,
She said, so she's getting retired.
Care center.
Just give it another minute to get to 9.
And they had already leased space. There's not a lot of brains. So now.
Mary, Mr. President, we have a quorum. It's 9:00.
9:00, boy, look at that. Welcome all to the Capital District Youth Center. Wednesday, October 16th, 2024. It's going to be broadcast on the Capital District Regional Planning Committee YouTube channel. Number 1, roll call. Albany Connors here. Kristen.
Here.
Renat. Laura.
Yes.
Mike Stammel.
can't make it,
Couldn't make it. Saratoga County's Susan
couldn't make it.
couldn't make it. I'm here, Schenectady County, Gary Hughes, not here. Samantha. Thank you. And we have guest here.
Maura Manning, Albany County Department for Children, Youth and Families.
Thank you. Online, we have Bill
It's,
Ryan.
Yep, Bob Ryan from Harris Beach.
Thank you. Bob.
Stephanie Thomas from Albany County Executive's Office.
Thank you, Stephanie. So we have everybody. We have a quorum. Okay, number 2, approval of the August 16th meeting minutes that are enclosed and they were sent out to everybody to review. Were any questions up front? Edits? Hearing none. Do I have a
Motion to.
motion to approve? A second? Thank you, Kristen. Any questions? Hearing none. Approvals? Yeas? Nays? No, hearing none, it passes. Okay, number 3, the financial statements through September 30th, 2024. The memo 2419. They were all sent out. Discussions at all?
I'll just hit the highlights. So,
Okay.
for secure detention, we're at about 3.8 million for the year, and specialized secure detention estimated costs are just about 5.8 million. And it should not say 351% to budget, it should say 51% to budget on that line. We have paid 62% of Q2 bill proceeds. We're still awaiting Q3 financials from Berkshire. We're really trying to do a better job getting ahead of some data issues. So one of the major things that holds up our billing process is not having accurate records, because we can't send the bills until we have accurate records. Our process has been to give the counties a pro forma bill so they can confirm the data that we have about the youth's adjudication and all that stuff. We used to wait until we had the financials, but now as soon as the quarter closes, we reach out to the counties just to confirm the information. we had a really challenging case for Schenectady County this past quarter, which took a long time to resolve and delayed our billing process. But hopefully, we won't encounter issues like that moving forward and can speed up getting the money to Berkshire. I'm sorry, together for you. It's gonna take a while.
It's gonna take me a while.
Oh, I have to ask really quickly, and maybe this, you're not the one, but when I do the wires for that, for this, what we're talking about, do I need to now change that from Berkshire Farms to Together for You, like the bank account stuff?
So I'm not sure our EIN number is still all the same.
Okay,
But
because I've been
our name has
writing,
changed.
so change it to Together for. Okay, I'll make sure from going forward.
And if you need anything additional, just let me know.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I have on the financials.
So I have on the financials, do I have first? Laura, thank you. Second,
I'm sorry.
Samantha, thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, yeas? Nays? Hearing none, it passes. Thank you much. Item number 4. Is the DASNY PSA updated memo 2420?
Right, so this is the outcome of our last board meeting when we approved up to $300,000 to fit out the new classrooms in the facility for BOCES. Subsequent to that, some additional items were added. This is a new project services agreement. The items that we will fund under this budget would be all the networking for the classroom equipment, new classroom furniture, new appliances for the kitchen, some culinary kitchen prep tables, and some work to some existing entertainment cabinets to raise them up so their youth can't access the wires behind them. So all told, we're looking at about $264,000. And this is just the agreement. This board already approved not to exceed amount and authorized me to execute the agreement. So this is presented here for your information.
Thank you, Mark. Do I hear first?
But we don't need to vote on it unless you want
Oh,
to.
that's right. I'm sorry. Yeah. Any questions? No, thank you. Item 5, SD and SSD recertification memo 2421.
This, every couple of years, it's a relatively heavy lift for Together for You folks, but they got it done and were able to get us recertified. And have our operating certificates from both SCOC and OCFS. I think the process is a lot better now. They're
It is.
coordinating,
We're doing much better. Yes, it's much easier to do.
much easier to do. So I think there's essentially one process
Yeah,
submitted
instead of two separate,
simultaneously.
we have one process with a couple added things, but only one submission, which makes it much easier. for us.
Mhm. So our operations certificates are good through October 1st, 2026.
Any questions? Well, Mark? Hearing none. Thank you, Mark. Item 6, maximum facility capacity for the next renovation phase.
Right, when we enter a new phase, that involves shutting down or opening up a dormitory, we have to change the maximum facility capacity and to specifically identify the areas in which youth are staying. So the next renovation phase will involve the 8-bed dorm, dorm A, and the 3-bed dorm, dorm B. Dorm B, as you know, is the dorm that houses females. So under this proposed maximum facility capacity modification presented to SCOC, we're proposing to operate one of the 6-bed units on the new dorm D as a female dorm. Hey, Gary.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Bigger.
And the other 6-bed as a male dorm. The impact of that would be the maximum capacity for males in the facility would change from
20.
20 to 18. But we would have 6 beds for females, which we've never had before. And usually our female pod is pretty full.
Yes.
Is there any questions? Or
The only other alternative would be to close down female intake, which I don't think anybody.
Yes, we would either be 18 males and 6 females or just 24 males.
Look, the referrals for females are still coming in now, correct?
Sure, yes, we had only, so we are down to 2 this morning, but we'll be back up to 3 by the end of the week.
Thank you. And is there any other questions? Hearing none. Okay, item number 7, facility use memo 24-23.
Right, as you can see, the lion's share of bed days in the previous quarter are being used by Albany, with Rensselaer coming in second place. In Saratoga County with the lowest bed usage. Congratulations, Saratoga. As you can see, our out-of-county is really low. We really try to leave capacity open in the facility for our home counties. That being said, we're still encountering some issues. When counties call the facility and our home counties are being told there is no capacity. Which has drawn the ire of some law enforcement agencies and some other folks. I've been working with Luke, and he and Ray and others have really tried to dial in the process to make sure frontline staff have the information they need. If there's any cause for one of the home county use to be denied, whether it's capacity or otherwise, Luke or somebody else is going to be assigned to be available for frontline staff to call to make sure that they can make the determination whether or not to intake the youth from the home county. I again will also be notified if there's any denial. I think we've had a couple instances that have created some issues. And I'm getting a phone call from Samantha
On a Friday
on a
night.
Friday night. Stuff is going.
Well, your kids and my kids are bouncing off the wall.
Right. So Luke, you want to just talk about the changes and
Yeah,
processes?
So just because we have a lot of new staff coming in, all staff, when an intake comes in, they are elevating it up to the assistant director on call to make the call whether to accept the youth. If the answer is no, the assistant director is not making that call. It's coming to myself and Ray to make that decision, whether we are going to try to work something out, because we're going to try to get as creative as we can. We know it's difficult, but if we have to make the call, it will come from Ray and myself. We'll make that call, and then I will inform Mark immediately that that's going on. So there will be no denials without me saying that that's what we have to do.
And hopefully that'll ameliorate some of the confusion. In terms of facility use, Saratoga does have a youth in the facility that has been sentenced to an OCFS facility, but has been refusing to transport the youth. The youth has been in the facility since July, so we're now waiting on a court order from a judge to order the sheriff's office to transport the youth. And it's been a long drawn out process with OCFS attorneys involved. Luke went up to Saratoga to talk with the sheriff and other agency folks with the claim. Their roles and responsibilities, and to clarify some roles and responsibilities of the sheriff under the law. Sheriff's office was indicating that they really would like to see an order from a judge directing them to transport the youth. We feel that, well, I feel that may be a bit of overkill, because the law specifies that the sheriff shall transport the adolescent offenders. So hopefully it will be resolved, but the youth has been taking up a bed since July.
Why is he getting transferred?
So he was placed in OCFS custody,
Okay.
which requires him to be transferred from our facility to the OCFS facility.
Yeah, it's probably gonna be really questions.
So hopefully it'll be resolved and we can, make the process more clear for folks in Saratoga County. I also did inform them that the sheriff's office can send us a bill for transporting the youth. Like Rensselaer County does, they do it on a quarterly basis.
And I just want to let county know, for instance, Schenectady County Sheriff called me the other day, not for anything, but just because they wanted to talk to me to make sure they understood the process. So I really appreciate that. So if anybody wants to, any department wants to talk about the process, please get a hold of me. We'll meet, we'll talk, we'll sit down so everybody's clear. And I'm happy to do that with anybody.
Is this the first time Saratoga's ever had someone committed to OCFS that they had to transfer?
It happened years ago. I was told, I was not there, but the same issue did arise.
Oh, did it happen then?
Any other questions? Hearing none. Item 8. RTA capital project update memo 2424.
You see a lot of the field reports with pictures of the progress of the for the detention facility upgrades and expansion project. There have been a lot of amazing upgrades. As you know, Form D came online. The rec yard is online, the new visitation space is online, the new administrative wing is online. Classroom renovations are finishing up. And we're moving into the next phase of renovation. So I think by November, we should be opening up and turning over Dorm C. And then moving into the renovation areas for Dorm B and Dorm A, as we previously discussed. And I'd just like to thank Luke and his staff at Together for Youth, because they've had to deal with an enormous amount of challenges at the facility, including lack of parking. So for a while, the facility staff, and they may still be, they're still parking at the jail.
We have to park at the jail till probably November 15th.
November 15th. So the staff for, maybe 3-4 months have been parking at the jail, and Together for Youth is operating a shuttle. That shift change brings people from the jail into the facility. And this allows for, the continuation of paving and other site work that needs to happen at the facility. We are intaking staff and youth through the new Sallyport area, and quite an upgrade, I must say. The new Sallyport.
It is so much nicer than going to the lobby. It's really nice.
Yep. So until that changeover happens, the paving is completed, staff will be continuing to park down at the jail and being shuttled up. But anyway, just thank you and your team for their flexibility and, not completely losing all morale because of how challenging it is. The other thing I did attach to this was a request I sent to OCFS to authorize additional costs in the project. Our contingency budgets for the general contractor and the electrician in particular are concerningly low. The electrician in particular only has $12,000 left in their contingency budgets. So the proposal that we worked with Albany County and the general contractor was to add an additional 25% of the remaining construction budget to the prime contractor's contingency budgets to take them through the end of the project. Thankfully, Albany County, subject to final legislative approval, has authorized funds to replenish the contingency budget accounts. This communication to OCFS, and it will eventually go to division of budget, is essentially to authorize the 89% reimbursement of those additional costs that we're adding to the project. So this request covers the backfilling the contingency. It includes the costs of fitting out, of replacing furniture and other items, and costs for paying the construction manager to remain on site for 3 additional months to complete the project. So all told, it's a not to exceed amount of requesting to the state of $820,000. But the money that Albany County has pledged is already in their legislative process and going through the committee approval process. So we hope to have those funds available by the November legislative meeting is what we're looking at. And of course, a summary of the change orders that are really driving the depletion of the contingency is attached. Major change orders were related to the smoke alarm system, smoke exhaust system, change orders related to the fence, the secure anti-climb fence mistake.
Yeah.
And other items that were just unforeseen circumstances as you start pulling open walls and stuff like that.
Most things happen. Thank you, Mark. Any questions? Hearing none. Then we go on to item number 9. EIP related to education programs and memo 2425.
Right, we received a notification on October 9th, telling us what we already know, and that the facility is not adequately providing an education program, and BOCES has been unable to hire teachers at this point. As you know, the classrooms are being renovated, so we don't really have a place to hold school during the renovation. But we are still compelled, or Together for Youth is still compelled to provide an education and vocational training program. So Luke is working with his team to develop an alternative that can be approved and meet the regulations and submit that to OCFS. OCFS has been aware of the challenges related to changeover in their school operator, the challenges securing teachers, and of course, the challenges of conducting the renovation project. So you just want to talk a little bit about the steps you're taking?
Sure. I think on a very positive note, we have hired, Together for Youth has hired an educational administrator, Elizabeth McGraw. She has a great deal of experience. She operated and oversaw the Saratoga Warren BOCES program for many years, and their alternative education program. So she is currently in charge of our education program. We are not providing the 5.5 hours that are required, but we are providing education to our kids. They are getting education, but we do not have teachers at this time. We have one social studies teacher in the background check and one English teacher looking at a second interview right now with BOCES. But what we are going to be exploring and what we need to explore is online education. So we have 2 meetings set up this week, one with BOCES to look at their online resources, also working with our past superintendent, Tim Backus. We have made some connections with some services that Albany City School District are utilizing for online services, and we are meeting with them this week as well. And we're working with our IT department to make sure that we have the necessary hardware so that our youth can engage in it. So we will be looking at online school. How long we'll be looking at that will be depending on contracts and what we see moving forward. It could be for half a year. It could be for much of this year. We'll have online in place while we're getting the teachers in place and getting the classrooms open and everything ready to go. But we have a clear path forward. We need to have online education. It is just finalizing who we're going to be working with for that online education and getting the hardware in the facility.
Does the online satisfy the 5.5 hours?
It will.
Does it?
Yes, and that's what we're working with them on.
And the hiring of teachers, they are employed by BOCES,
Yes, the teachers will be employed by
and
BOCES.
they just can't hire teachers.
It's difficult to hire teachers, yeah, particularly math and science have been very difficult to hire. But we are working diligently. BOCES is working diligently too, and then BOCES is working with us to help us work through these things. We're working very closely with them. BOCES has been a great support in this time.
So there's a path forward on those.
We do see a path forward. We're going to have this online education, which is going to allow us to provide the education for the youth. We know that we want to have teachers in person,
Oh, yeah.
and as soon as we can get them, we will have that fully running. But like Mark said, also we don't even have classrooms open. So the education we're giving our kids now is real education with our educational administrator, but it's being done in the dorms.
And it is qualified for them.
Oh, she is qualified to give it, but she can't be in all the dorms at once. So we're doing the absolute, and OCFS, despite having this pivot, understands how hard we're working, and they're working very closely with us, giving us resources as well.
We had kind of transition.
Yes.
Understand.
It's good to know.
And another positive, down the road outcome of this, Berkshire having an education administrator is going to be the institutional knowledge and the person responsible for tracking down IEPs and communicating with the school districts. It's work that didn't always happen when the teachers, because they had to teach, they didn't always have the time to go and get the paperwork from the home school districts, but now we'll have that institutional person and we'll have the sort of institutional memory, so as maybe teachers change over time, we'll still have that core function that Together for Youth staff will provide.
Sounds good. Is there any other questions? Yeah. Hearing none. We're going on to item number 10, nominating committee memo 2426.
Right, it's time that time every 2 years where we change officers. We'll do the shuffle. So at this meeting, I'm hoping the president can appoint somebody to be the nominating committee, an individual or individuals. Everyone's role typically is per the bylaws is if you move up to the next spot. Our vice chair, unfortunately, has provided notice that she will be unable to continue past January 1st. In the role, so we'll need to find another representative from Schenectady County to serve as our board president. So that'll be the task. I mean, Craig can call for volunteers for the nominating committee, I suppose.
Do I hear any volunteers? We have to have, is that
No, you can just do one, an individual or individuals for this board. Two is good.
Well, it sounds like if the opening is in Schenectady County, maybe somebody from Schenectady County should raise their hand and say they'll volunteer
Thank you, Gary.
to be on the nominee, not to be the chair.
Mhm.
we appreciate your volunteer.
Right.
Which
I
Gary,
consider myself volunteer.
do I hear second volunteer? Laura, super. Okay, yeah, Gary, we have Laura. Thank you for offering that. I'm sure you'll do an excellent job.
We'll scour the hallways over there and find a appropriate recruit.
Samantha might have a suggestion too. That we talked about earlier, right?
She might, we'll talk.
So.
I'll buy you coffee.
Here we go.
Said the magic.
Do I hear
word.
first? On this,
Laura.
Laura, thank you, second,
Second,
Gary. Thank you. Do I hear yays? You all support the efforts. When you hear any nays, hearing none, it passes. Okay, item 12, facility operation agency report. It says.
Berkshire, but
We gotta do the minimum.
We gotta do the minimum standards. First. Yeah, number,
Oh. I'm sorry about that. Item 11. Minimum standards evaluation memo 24-27.
So maybe you can clarify something for me, Luke. Is this just a never ending process?
so it's a two-part process.
Okay,
Because
it seems like we've just been doing this every meeting.
I'll lay out the whole process. So SCOC has a set of minimum standards on how they want everything to operate, and they started initiating with all the dimensions, reviewing those minimum standards in two parts. So our first part was earlier in this year in February, in which we submitted a whole bunch of responses to them on how we do things. And then they came and did a site visit in February where they looked to see our actions if they were within their standards. And they came back to us with some responses that they wanted to see. We sent them responses and they came back again to say some of these don't fit and we'd like you to respond again. So we did so. We had to send it in by the end of September, and on September 24th, we responded to all of their questions. A lot of things were done through policy changes that we have in action, and you'll see in here the requirements that they had. Many of the responses are that they've accepted our responses. Now they want to come and see how we do it to make sure we're doing it like we say. And they're going to be coming probably in November to check that out. But we did, there are some actions that we did take that we needed to, particularly we've increased visitation hours. So our youth have at least 2 hours of visitation a week. And some of the way we're doing visitation, SCOC wanted to see it different, and all those have been implemented. We also make sure that all of our keys are now binded and they can't leave the facility and nobody can take no keychains or do anything like that. So we are following all of that. And we have responded to all the items in the minimum standard evaluation they asked for. So they'll be coming to see to make sure that that's all happening. And then this week we have submitted for part 2, all of our paperwork, and they'll be coming in November to do part 2 analysis, which will go through the same process. They'll come and do it. We'll submit responses and then they'll come back probably in January or February for a second review. And just like this year, go through that process. So we're halfway through.
Why is there that disconnect between what they're requiring? Is it because it's not getting communicated, or is it because new policies or?
It's operating, State Commission on Corrections operates adult facilities, which operate much differently from the way we have operated under OCFS. So there's some different ways to do things. I don't think, we don't disagree. There's not big disagreements. There's just some different ways they want to see things done. And a lot of the ways we just haven't thought about, but security wise, they make sense. As far as population counts and things that they like to see during the day, which we are doing now. One of the biggest sticking points with logbooks in a jail. They have a logbook in every room, and when you go in, you do that logbook. Because our staff are moving with youth, unlike in a jail where staff stay in an area, we carry our logbook with us. They did not like that. However, we had a meeting in the middle of September. They have agreed, we have submitted a waiver to allow us to do it the way we do it. So they thought that with a waiver, they'd be willing to do that. So we have submitted that. We haven't gotten that approved, but preliminarily, they have said that they're on board with how we do things.
Sounds good.
It's a learning process. I mean, it's new for SDOC. So it's a learning process for them, and they are not always on the same page with OCFS. Because OCFS doesn't have a correctional mindset really, and SCOC does. So the outcome of that is, often happens when these evaluations happen and they have SCOC talks with Luke, as I just explained. So it's a learning process on both sides.
Super. Is there any questions on this? Okay, thank you much. Now we're going to item 12. Facility Operation Agency report. Berkshire.
Yes, so we've been doing a lot in the closed space. We have had some things going on in the last 2 months. One particular is we have a youth in the hospital. He's been in the hospital since August 23rd, and we have to maintain the hospital. So we're splitting our staff between the hospital and the facility. It is in the best interest of the youth to be in the hospital. It's safest for the youth to be there, but we have learned a lot about long-term hospital stays and how to maintain that. So we are currently doing that, which does pull a lot of our staff out of the facility. As Mark said, the shuttle, I want to give my staff a lot of credit. It is very difficult to run a shuttle every day and having to be driven to your work site and back out, especially with once they get there, they have to go through all different searches as they're moving through the facility. So my staff have been doing a great job, giving them a lot of credit for making sure that we're doing that, and our leaders for making sure that we are getting that shuttle to work, because if somebody's late, we need to send out another shuttle, or somebody's early. So we've been making that work. We're preparing for the gym reopening, which is great, as well as, potential for Pod C. And that's going to open up with those A and B, and we'll be doing the same thing with our staff, touring through the area, training in the area prior to youth coming in. So we're all ready to go, just like we did in the Sally Port area and Pod D. We are working, our new rec yard is the best thing that we have going. Our kids love that. The rec yard is huge. So our kids have been enjoying that. We have a lot of ideas for next year on how to continue with that. And we're in a small space, but we're doing our absolute best, and appreciating our staff really working with the kids to make it the best they can.
And once we have a parking lot, we'll probably have our meeting in the conference room at the facility. But not until we have a parking lot.
We're going to have a parking lot. It's going to be beautiful. It has been
The best parking lot you've ever seen.
It has been almost 18 months since we had to reel all of our parking lot where all staff could park and actually have a parking space. It's been a long time. So some of our staff don't even know what a parking lot is. They do the work thing. So we're very excited to grab that. November 15th is the planned target date. Very excited.
And the entirety of the new footprint of the new parking is a pervious pavement. So hopefully that'll help with drainage and during the winter time. So we'll see how that works out.
Does that pavement have to be maintained also?
There's maintenance requirements for pervious pavement. I'm not an expert to know what they are, but we were required to do it because that area is right over a wetland, regulated wetland.
Parking lot, November 15th.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Transitional.
Yeah,
phase to
we're getting there.
phase and-
We're pushing to the end. And we are.
Yeah. been happening, right? Okay, any other questions regarding the facility? Okay, number 13, other business. Is there any others that we have to address this time? We hear none. Okay. Next meeting date is December 18th, 9 o'clock. Hopefully we all can have a quorum. Sure, you will, and is there any other issues that we have to? Or should talk about there is? Hearing none, we'll close this meeting. We will see you all December 18th and 24th.
Motion to adjourn.
Excuse me?
Motion to adjourn.
Hearing none, motion to adjourn. We have a first, Gary, we have a second, Samantha. Yes? Yes? Hearing none. We'll see you all then. Thanks.